Welcome to Mainland, your local regional television station, coming to you from the Nelson and Tasman region. In this week's news roundup, police urge caution as duck shooting season starts, MP opens new bridges to improve access to Hefe, Council postpones hearings on legal highs, Phil Goff's reaction to legal highs decision, Mayor congratulates Gigatown Nelson, Easter storm claims New Zealand's largest matai tree, and Nelson musicians debut on network television. Tasman police are urging people to take extra caution as the start of the duck shooting season gets underway this weekend. The season commences May 3rd and ends on July 27th. Tasman District Firearms Officer, Senior Constable Peter Crins, says it was important hunters practice good firearms safety and were aware of the impacts of their activity on nearby residents. He says every year police receive complaints from people about shooting close to residential areas at the start of the season. He cautioned those intending to shoot in the Waimea Inlet to be aware of the likelihood of cyclists using the extensive cycle trails in that area. Peter Crins says cyclists and people engaging in other recreational activities also need to be aware that hunters may be in the area at this time of the year. Hunters are also reminded that it's an offence against the Arms Regulation 1992 to leave firearms unattended in vehicles. He says, keep in mind when you're out using firearms, as we've had to deal with a couple of these incidents recently. Go to the game bird hunting regulations and hunting areas at fishandgame.org.nz for more information. Access to the Hefe track was markedly improved this week. I spoke with Nelson MP Conservation Minister Dr Nick Smith about the opening of 3 new road bridges, which are part of a major program of investment in improved facilities on the Hefe track that includes new huts, improved tracks and new track suspension bridges.
Well, the first thing that's really exciting over in that area is the decision that I took last year for mountain biking to be allowed on the Hefe track all year round. Now, what the locals, particularly right up the top end of the Mainland Valley, have been saying is that in the winter months where there are frequent major rainfall events, those people that are doing the track can't get out. And as New Zealanders do, you're going to provide the emergency shelter, or their bigger worry is that somebody's going to get drowned or hurt in trying to cross a number of the old fords. Now, it's very unusual for DOC to fund council bridges. But in these exceptional circumstances, I made the call that it was appropriate for those 3 bridges to be funded by DOC, and it was a great pleasure to open those this week. What was even more fun for me, and if there was something that's given me a real warm fuzzy this last week, it's that there's been a debate in Golden Bay going back 25 years over their health services. And last year, the decision brought together a single Golden Bay Health Centre. Now, for smaller rural communities, the only way they can get the quality health services they need is to consolidate the rest home, your maternity care, your primary health GP type services in one place, and they've done that. Sad part was that you then ended up with the Joan Whiting, Collingwood, what was originally a maternity hospital, then became a rest home being closed. Now, a young Nelson entrepreneur made the decision to purchase that old hospital, and it's now been converted into Zatori, which is both a backpackers and luxury lodge with the most gorgeous views over Golden Bay and the estuary at the bottom of the Riri River. A truly delightful spot. Now, that business is only viable because of the decision the government has made around the mountain biking on Hefe, because the big challenge for our visitor industry, both in Karamea and also in the Western Golden Bay, is that they have huge visitor numbers in summer and it's absolutely dead in winter. And so where I'm excited about that mountain bike experience is I think it is one of the premier international multi-day mountain bike trips, but also because of the economic boost that it can provide to Golden Bay and Karamea. It's estimated to provide $3 million of economic activity per year from those 2,500 mountain bikers per year that will now be able to do it. And the combination of the bridges and the mountain bike track and the new Zatori Lodge in the old Collingwood rest home, to me, is a really exciting development in our region. I reckon in future years, I remember when the first entrepreneurs set up the kayaking on the Oval Tasman, and people said, it's a bit out there. Actually, it's one of the iconic activities. It's now associated with Nelson tourism. I believe mountain biking of the Heaphy Track will equally become an iconic activity from Nelson.
So it's been a win-win every which way.
Yeah, it has. Look, there's been a few trampers that are very pure and think that these tramps should only be for those people that carry a pack. My simple view is the more people that we can get out into the great outdoors enjoying it, the better. We've got a bit of a problem at the moment, and my dock staff are working as fast as they can with the massive storm event that came through there over Easter. They're working as fast as they can, and the track will be reopened on the 12th of May. That weather stuff happens, but fundamentally the direction we're going in with that mountain biking and those new facilities is good news for the region.
Excellent, fantastic. The Giggatown Nelson team has triumphed again, and Nelson Mayor Rachel Rees offers her congratulations on the latest victory in the competition that aims to bring gigabit internet fibre to Nelson. She says a dedicated group of individuals and businesses are making a mark on this competition and putting Nelson in a fantastic position to win. Mayor Rees says they're building a solid body of online community support that has seen Nelson leap from 27th place right up to 2nd. She says what a tremendous result, and she's looking forward to seeing the mural by urban artist Askew One that will be on Selwyn Street at the back of Morrison Square by this weekend. Mayor Rees says she understands its focus as local children, celebrating the link between the online world and those who will most benefit and thrive from the success of this effort. Meanwhile, Labour Associate Spokesperson Foreign Affairs and Spokesperson for Ethnic Affairs, Trade and Defence Phil Goff was in Nelson on Tuesday speaking at the Victory Community Centre, and Mainland's Janine Pugh caught up with Phil and asked for his opinions on the legal highs issue.
Okay, Phil, the government has just made a announcement on Sunday regarding the banning of legal highs within the next 2 weeks. What's Labour's thoughts on this process? And what would you have done differently?
Well, it was Labor's announcement that was due to take place earlier in the week that finally promoted the government to do the right thing on the legal highs. Look, night after night we've seen stories of people who have suffered from addictions, who have been able to buy these things in corner shops. It's legal, so it must be okay. It must have been obvious right from the start that before any substance that is psychoactive that can be sold, the manufacturer must prove that that substance is not damaging to the health and the well-being of the individual. That's what should have happened the first time around.
So you do think this announcement was maybe a little bit of a misjudgment by the government, as with these 2 weeks of almost grace? There could be a lot of people out there thinking, I'm going to stockpile, and then I can sell to people.
I think the government should have moved much earlier, and they should have done it without notice. It's sad that it was only Labor's impending policy that forced the government's hand on this. We needed the government, as soon as they picked up the messages that were coming from all over the country, from communities high and low in New Zealand, that it's a bad thing to have these substances freely available without any proof that they weren't damaging the health and well-being of people. They should have picked up that message earlier. They were slow in coming to the party. Thank God they've finally done it.
There is that, but then there's the other thing, what's going to happen now? Is anyone thinking, preempting what's going to happen?
Well, I think certainly what the government has to do is to enforce its policy. People are saying, if you'll drive it underground. Well, frankly, better underground than in the corner dairy. But if it's being done underground and it's illegal, then I would expect the government to enforce its policy fully. These things are serious. We can't have our kids, our teenagers or adults going in, using these substances and finding that there is a real damage to their health. Saying it's illegal implies that it's okay. Of course it's not okay.
That's exactly right. Now, animal testing, that's come into the fight at the moment. The Prime Minister said he wouldn't be happy with dogs and rabbits, but rodents. What's your take on this?
I think when you're talking about legal highs, subjecting any animal to pain and suffering for something that is not essential for the health of an individual is wrong. Look, if we were talking about a form of cancer and you had to trial it, yes, of course, you might be using rodents or other suitable animals because you're talking about saving human lives. But making animals suffer for something that's a recreational drug, it's not right.
And with legal highs now banned from shelves, questions are being raised this week in the national media around whether marijuana should be legalised, based on the argument that people are taking legal highs because they would fail work drug testing of smoking marijuana and that it's arguably less harmful. Mainland's Janine Pugh asked members of the public for their views around the pros and cons of legalisation of marijuana.
Do you think marijuana should be legalised?
No, I don't.
And why not?
I've spoken to it every day for 40 years. I should know whether it should or shouldn't be legalised, and I don't think it should be. I don't want my children smoking, and I don't want my grandchildren smoking it, or anyone else for that matter.
I think it should. I think some of the examples in the US of it being legalised and just the whole kind of drug situation just going down is really good. So I think that it definitely should be legalised just to make it so it's not, such a thing that it's like illegal, because I don't think people would do it if it wasn't illegal. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a rule-breaking thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Legalise it, tax it, control it, make money, stop this war on drugs. It's a ridiculous situation. Take people out of prison. It's a monstrosity, eh? We've got problems with alcoholism. We've got problems with legal highs. They're all plants and minerals from this world, and it's all about responsibility and teaching people how to have a better relationship with who they are and what they're trying to do with their lives.
I feel like if it's legalised, more people are just going to do it and get in trouble for it. So if you legalise it, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference because people are still going to do it no matter what.
Meanwhile, within hours of the government's announcement last Sunday to ban legal highs, it's understood an unknown quantity of legal highs was stolen from gizmos in Bridge Street, Nelson. At around 10 p.m, CCTV footage captured images of two hooded people entering the store, police saying they then smashed a display cabinet and made off with legal highs. The latest storm, which has felled many a tree in the Nelson-Tasman region, has also toppled New Zealand's largest and oldest matai tree. The tree, named Marakora, meaning noble lady, is thought to have stood for around 2,000 years in a steep valley on the outskirts of Nelson and is said to be the oldest matai in the world. After 2 long weekends, Police Operation Crossroads has had an interesting finding. With more holidaymakers who were on the roads, the figures for drunk drivers and accidents were more than the police were happy with. Janine Pugh spoke with Area Commander Steve Greeley about the operation, where our region drivers were failing and what his ideal scenarios were.
Steve Greeley, thank you very much for talking with us today. Now, over the last 2 weekends, because we've had 2 long weekends, a lot of people have had the whole 10 days off work.
Yep.
You've had Operation Crossroads and Operation Unite. Can you tell us a little bit about these?
Yeah, well, Operation Crossroads was all about the Easter break. It's about making sure that people are safe on our roads. That's alcohol as well, speeding, licences, all sorts of things, warrant of fitness, you name it. So we made sure our staff were out there in force, making sure that our road users were safe over the Easter break.
Have there been anything sort of coming up that are different than normal, or, your figures? We were just talking briefly about the figures. They seem quite normal, but you also had a lot more officers on the road.
Yeah, to be honest, I think they are quite normal. Unfortunately, New Zealand has that culture with alcohol where, unfortunately, a lot of people abuse it. And people make the wrong decision. Once they've been having alcohol, they for some reason decide that they're going to drive home or drive to the next place. That puts a lot of people at risk, as you know. But we had 13 people that failed the excess breath alcohol testing, which is really quite alarming. It's really not rocket science. The only person who can make the decision to stay out of the vehicle is the person drinking alcohol. Police cannot do that for them, but I can tell you now, we can certainly deal with it once it's been detected, and that can only end up in court.
Do you think we need to, back on the people being picked up for drunk driving or over the limit. Do you think we need to, as a community, go, okay, we need to look into this, we need to teach our young people more things? I think they've forgotten I think we've moved away from basics and of the whole village to raise a child. Do you think we need to get back to some basics?
Well, the basic problem-solving approach that we take in police is that police don't own a problem on their own. Most problems are far too complex for police to take ownership of. We can certainly use stewardship and direct a group of people together to actually achieve a common purpose. But yeah, I agree. In that sort of analogy, yeah, it's certainly multi-faceted approach. It's not just police. So yeah, but I'm a firm believer that when you are drinking, you make that decision. You're the only one who can decide what to think about it. And unfortunately, too many people are still making the wrong decision and getting behind the wheel, putting too many people at risk.
What would be your ideal weekend for results and for the police and for general population?
Well, the ideal result is no accidents at all, and nobody loses their life, nobody goes to hospital, and nobody gets done for excess breath alcohol because they're making the right decisions. But in the real world, that's just not going to occur. And when you look around Tasman District and certain parts of Nelson Bays here, we've got some fantastic roads that people are drawn to from right around the world. They want to come down and do a motorbike tour, and I encourage that. It's a great thing to be. I love being here myself, but I'm just saying, take care when you do it. Don't take silly risks. On a motorbike, more than any other vehicle, you're going to come off third in a two-man race. It's just not. It's not good.
Thank you very much for speaking with us today, Steve.
Not a problem at all. Thanks very much.
The houseboat structure, which has been ordered to be moved on by the Environment Court, is on the move. But not without a defiant message by owner Paul Jepson, who has boldly painted the words "Life will go on long after money" on the side of the condemned vessel. Mr Jepson has about a week to ship out of the haven, with signs he will comply, having moved it close to the Maitai River outlet. Nelson City Council can forcibly remove the structure if it's still occupying water space in just over a week. Gen Zero is a national youth organisation which is currently promoting the Vote New Energy campaign. Gen Zero is a group of New Zealanders who want to advance solutions on climate change, and they say current government policies are keeping the country hooked on fossil fuels. The organisation says although New Zealand has a proud history of renewable energy, the government needs a comprehensive plan to bring about an economic transition to back off our country's dependence on traditional energy sources such as coal, oil and gas. I asked Conservation Minister Dr Nick Smith for his thoughts regarding the Gen Zero's campaign.
Very familiar with the issue. Previously being Minister of Climate Change, I actually drive a 100% electric car that's charged up on renewable power. The first thing is New Zealand does have a plan, and that is for moving us to greater renewables. I'm very proud of our record as a government in that both through the 90s and through what I call the noughties from 2000 to 2010, the proportion of New Zealand's electricity that was renewable dropped. Over the last 5 years under our government, that's been increasing. We've got a government target of moving to 90% renewables by 2025, and we're on target to achieve that. Most recently, and New Zealand's single biggest greenhouse gas emitter is the Huntly Power Station. And as a consequence of the government's emissions trading scheme that imposes a cost on those emissions, they've decided to close down another one of those turbines and to convert the energy over to renewables, and that way in geothermal in their particular case. The bit where Gen Zero, and we need to just have an honest conversation about this stuff, is that I've seen them put up targets that New Zealand needs to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2020. Well, let's just be real about this. Half of New Zealand's greenhouse gas emissions are sheep and cows, right? No technology currently exists to reduce that. So what you're effectively saying is if you want to reduce overall emissions by 40% and you're not going to do anything about the sheep and cows, that means you have to reduce overall emissions by 80% in 6 years. I'm sorry, that's not realistic. The second thing is that there's a very real issue of costs and trade-offs that we need to be upfront and honest with New Zealanders. Yes, we could make more progress in reducing New Zealand's greenhouse gas emissions, but that comes with a cost. Now, equally, as New Zealanders are concerned about climate change, they're also concerned about their power bills. And I find in terms of both the commentary from the Green Party and from some of these organisations, is that they are less than upfront or plain naive about the fact there's a cost. Let me give you an example. My little Merv electric car has got a value at $70,000. A normal petrol car of the same size is about $25,000. Now, I'm happy to do it. I'm very fortunate. I'm on a good income. But there is a cost of, if you want to make electric cars compulsory, yes, you could achieve those sort of goals. But lots of Kiwi families could not afford that so much more expensive car. If you want, for instance, and if you take the issue around oil and gas, there are no conceivable technologies of which in the medium term we're going to need oil and gas. And then the question becomes, they don't like it because the government is exploring New Zealand's oil and gas resources in our own country. Well, I tell you, it is totally hypocritical to say, I want to drive my car, or I want to buy goods that have been carted to New Zealand, or I want to get on an aeroplane, but I only want to use oil and gas that's been drilled from some other country. To me, that is not, it's one atmosphere. So good on Generation Zero, right for them to highlight the issue. We do need to take a long-term perspective, but equally so we need to be honest with the New Zealand public about the trade-offs. My view on this, the more you want to reduce emissions, the more the costs that flow with that. And where government has got to make a choice, and we are putting a cost. Every time you fill your car up with oil, every time you use energy, every time you buy a good that's been transported, every time you go on a domestic flight, you are paying a cost for climate change. And that is through the emissions trading scheme. But if you want more progress, then it'll cost you more. And then you've got to say, for a global environmental issue like climate change, New Zealand is doing more than most governments. How much more do you want us to do? Americans are doing diddly squat. Australia has just gone backwards. In my view, what do you want to do in terms of how much ahead of other countries? And that's the other part of it. So it's those issues between what should New Zealand's role be internationally? We should at least do our share. Secondly, if you want to do what Generation Zero propose, be honest about the cost it's going to impose and the number of jobs that you'll lose in the New Zealand economy.
My perception is that you probably want to put it back on to the individual to take more responsibility for their own choices.
Yes, you do. And so, for instance, the old environmental slogan, think globally, act locally. So I say to, local people in Nelson, is that, hey, look, do try and do your recycling. Do try and be careful with your energy use. Do make a choice at least to buy a very fuel efficient car rather than a gas guggler. It's a good thing that we have things like cycleways. It's a good thing that you insulate your house and try and minimise your energy use. And so it is a mix. There are things that people can do, there's things that governments can do, there are things that councils can do. But in all of those, yes, the environment's important, but it's also important that people have got a job, and it's also important that people are able to heat their homes efficiently and affordably.
And now Janine Pugh speaks with local musician Kath B about her big break on network television.
I saw in the paper a little boy had done a video out of plasticine models.
Right.
And so I emailed his mother and said, would he be interested in making a little video to Dragons Under My Bed? And she said, she threw it out to him and played him a song, and he said he'd love to. Well, she kind of took it on board and was doing a course and that kind of thing at Polytech, and so she ended up making the video for me out of plasticine models. Yes.
Wow.
And it took a very, 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 very long time. And luckily she could do it as part of her course. And the course director also took it on board and helped her do it. So for me, I could never have afforded to get it done, and now it's almost finished and it's cute as, and so finally the song has got a video to go with it.
Fantastic.
And that'll be coming out properly in another month or so.
And so how do people, when that does come out, will that be on like YouTube, or will it be a big
it
release?
will be on YouTube. Well, there'll be a release of some sort because I'll be entering it in the APRA Video of the Year Awards, and what I want to do is get votes. So if it gets into the final, that is. Then,
okay, so then
people have to vote.
Okay, so closer to the time, you'll give us some information so people can vote for you?
for sure.
Nice.
Yep.
Cool. Now you're going to play us a tune. What song are you going to...
I'm going to play the Rocket Ship song, which was the one that I wrote for the pilot of the Poppet Stars series. So I thought I'd just play that one. I'm flying into space in my rocket ship. What will I see on my special trip? Bursting through the clouds, higher than a kite on my flight. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. It's a rainbow. Some kiddo, look out birds, an aeroplane. Up, up, up I go. Comets and satellites, up amongst the stars. The moon and the planets. Look, that red one's Mars. I'm flying into space in my rocket ship. What will I see on my special trip? When I look back down, well, I can see the Earth smiling up at me, and it's time for tea. Going lower and lower, rocket ship going down, down, down. I flew into space in my rocket ship. What did I see on my special trip? Well, I saw the Earth. We're all part of the universe. Yes, we're all part of the universe.
After the break, we'll bring you the latest weather update and some events and happenings coming up from around the region.
Hi, I'm John McMillan at the Nelson Power Tool Centre. We have great prices on all the top quality brands of power tool. Tools and equipment at our showroom, 146 Tahunanui Drive in Nelson. The Nelson Power Tool Centre, the specialists that stand behind and service what we sell.
Discover the Belgrove Tavern just 20 minutes south of Richmond on State Highway 6 for meals, functions, weddings, barbecues and garden bar with lots of room for kids. Come and see us.
Hi, my name's Ian Mortimer. Mortimer Auto Upholstery is your one-stop shop for all your upholstery needs. We do car and boat interiors, boat canopies, ute tonneau covers, canvas and PVC fabrication. Call in and see us in Oxford Mews, 72 Oxford Street, Richmond.
Victory 60 Plus on Tuesdays at 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. at 238 Upper Vanguard Street. Join us for cards, games and a cuppa. For more information, contact Jan on 546 9057 or 027 4577 955. On behalf of the team here at Mainland Television News, thanks for joining us. We'll bring you the latest news and events from around the region again tomorrow.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
Waimea Telecommunications, specialising in free-to-air digital television, internet broadband connections, telephone and telecommunications systems. Call Julian Toon at Waimea Telecommunications on 544-4203.